social media strategy for a second. Your song Big Love Small Moments went viral on Instagram. The sound, not just like one video. There's 111,000 reels that have used the song, the official sound, Big Love Small Moments. Mm-hmm. Tell me how that happened.
We don't know.
Come on, that's so unsatisfying.
I know. It's so, yeah, this is the like rip your hair out part of trying to be a musician. It's a blessing and a curse.
What's going on? Welcome to the New Music Business. I'm your host, Ari Herstand, author of How to Make It in the New Music Business. The book, 3rd edition, is out now everywhere. All formats, hardcover, ebook, audiobook, however you like books, you can find the book wherever you find books. Today, my guests are Dave and JJ Heller. They're a married couple. JJ Heller is the artist.
Trusting that the spring will come after the snow, and every blooming flower is a miracle. Each single seed holds a hidden life, and good things grow in good time.
And Dave is the manager of the project, also husband, and plays music with her and co-writes the songs. And they've been doing this now for about 20 years. JJ Heller is a children's musician, and she's wildly successful. They have around 1 billion streams, 11 million monthly streams, and they have over 100 million views on YouTube. They've sold over 200,000 physical albums, 200,000. They've sold over almost 1 million digital downloads back when digital downloads were a thing. But yes, now we're in this current day and age, there are 11 million monthly streams. And we talk about how this all happened. We start off kind of just the journey of getting started in the early 2000s, a really fascinating time to get started in music, and how they evolved from touring and live performing to selling physical product and selling CDs, and that was the business model, to the shift into complete digital realm, and how they've thrived and succeeded in this streaming era and the streaming economy, and how they're making it work. So it's a fascinating conversation, and of course, because I can't let a conversation go without talking about AI, we discuss towards the end kind of how AI might affect their business model and the music realm that they operate in, because they have a lot of lullaby songs and a lot of sleep music and all of that. And as we know, AI is rapidly infiltrating every part of the streaming ecosystem, and especially these functional music playlists or functional music listening with the algorithm and all of that. So it was a great conversation. They're super smart. They're completely DIY. That's something I do want to point out. They've been DIY this entire time. That means no label. They have been self-distributing their music and running their career on their own without a label, without much support, to be honest, other than the two of them. They do discuss some of their collaborators and all of that, but they've been running this career all on their own. Definitely recommend checking out JJ Heller. You can find her wherever you find music, streaming services. You can find the videos on YouTube, Instagram, all of that. You know how to find people on the internet, JJ Heller. And you can find all of us that make the show happen at Ari's Take on the socials. Find me at Ari Herstand on Instagram. But most importantly, visit aristake.com and get on the email list. That's the best way to stay in touch with us. So actually, if you wouldn't mind, just pause this episode right now. Visit aristake.com, get on the email list. And while the episode's paused, leave us a 5-star review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Give us a thumbs up on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the follow button. However you're listening to this, hit that follow button if you want this to populate your feed some more. All right, let's kick into the show. Dave and JJ Heller, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, this is a monumental episode, I have to say. We've done over 200 episodes. This is the first time I've ever had, I believe, a married couple on the show.
All right.
Welcome.
Feels so special.
I know. So, but it makes sense because JJ Heller, the artist, and but we all know it takes a team and multiple people and just help behind the scenes. And so to have you both here is great because, I know that you two have been working on this thing together this project for a very long time. I believe I read somewhere you've been married, is it 22 years? Did I get that
think
right?
it's 22.
Yeah,
That's
that
right.
sounds right.
Look at me. Okay, so but yeah, and JJ, you've been releasing music for a long time, and I know like back in the day, and I'm assuming before you had kids, the topics was a little bit different, and the
Yeah.
style and the content and has evolved as you have evolved and grown. So I'm just curious, I'd love just like a brief history of just kind of like how you got started, JJ, and like then I guess as the two of you came together and how this whole thing evolved, because I know you've been doing it kind of DIY for many, many years, and as doing this going on, 2 decades
Basically,
or so.
Yeah, as long as we've been married, for sure.
Right. That's a feat. And so, please, JJ, maybe start off just like a little background.
Sure. I feel like this whole thing was kind of an accident. Like neither of us really intended to be musicians full time as a career. Like that just didn't seem like a real job possibility.
Yeah.
But I started writing songs in college, kind of as therapy for myself. I wanted to play basketball in college, actually,
Right
and
on.
I played my freshman year, but I'm only
Where'd you go to school?
5'5".
Oh,
Just
well,
like
that's
this tiny
challenging.
little college in
Okay.
California. So
Right on.
yeah, I mean, it's not like we were super good, but everything that I wanted it to be, it just wasn't. Like my whole dream kind of fell apart, and
Okay.
after that season, I knew I wasn't going to play basketball anymore, and so I was kind of like searching around for who I was. I mean, because basketball was such a huge part of my identity for my whole life, pretty much leading up to that moment. But I had always loved music, and I had always loved literature. And so a friend of mine taught me guitar, and I wrote my first song with her and some friends. And it was just like this whole new world opened up to me. And
Yeah.
I started writing songs to just kind of process through the loss of my dream and who I wanted to be. And it was always a surprise when I would play one of those songs for a girl in my dorm, and she would say, "Oh my gosh, I feel like you just read my journal. Like that's exactly how I feel too." But it wasn't like I want to be a songwriter forever. It was just like, oh, this feels right. This is helping me process. And it's cool that people are relating to it. But it was shortly after that I met Dave. And we were actually in a worship band together for college. And so practicing those songs. And one day after worship team practice, I asked if like they wanted to hear a song that I wrote. And so I tentatively played it for them. And one of the guys on the worship team really wanted to be in like a legit band. And so he's like, "Oh, this is awesome. Like, let's put a band together and I'll manage it and book the gigs. And Dave, you can play guitar, and JJ, you can sing and write the songs." And we were like, "Okay, sure. Yeah, if you want to spearhead the whole thing, like that sounds fun." And so we just played at open mic nights, and we were pretty terrible for a long time, but it was just like one of those things where we would have one opportunity and that would open the door for another opportunity that was a little bit better, and the audience was a little bit bigger. And by the time, so that was like sophomore year of college. And by the time we were getting ready to graduate, we got engaged, and we thought if we were ever going to pursue a music career, it would be like that was the moment to do it right after we got married. And so we just decided like we're going to try to be musicians and do it for our job for like 1 year. And if things don't work out, then we'll get jobs like normal people, and we'll maybe just do music on the side.
But I mean, like this was the time when we first got married, like within that first year, the iTunes Music Store was announced. I mean, it was like people were buying CDs when we started out.
Yeah.
And so
So we're talking like 2003,
early 2000s.
That's right.
something like
Yep.
that. Yeah,
Exactly.
okay.
And so, I mean, it was like the plan when we got married was like find a studio, make a CD, like play Barnes and Noble, or, play at coffee shops, like hawk your CD, like find your way in that sort of like live music marketplace. And like selling digitally wasn't even really a thing. And streaming was like a dream, right?
Right.
But, as one thing led to another, we kind of began to find our footing. A couple years in, we made our first record in Nashville.
Well, hold on before you get to that, because you said, JJ, you had a 1-year plan, which most people in music, if they have a 1-year plan, that 1-year plan, that they're not going to be musicians. That's it. Right. Like it takes, as you know, it takes a little bit longer than 1 year to make it.
I know.
in the music industry. So what happened that year that you decided, or did you just like make it? And what does that mean that you made it that year? It's like, all right, we're doing this. This is our career now. Or how did, what's shifted there?
Yeah, that's a good question. I will say that our standard of living was very low at that time. So
as early 20-somethings.
Yeah. I mean, so we were newlyweds. Before we got married, we were both living with a ton of roommates each. And just sharing all of our stuff. And so going from that to just 2 of us, and like all of the food in the fridge is ours. Like all of the dishes are ours. Like it felt like an extravagance almost, even though our little apartment was like teeny tiny. And our entire monthly expenses, I think, were $1,000 at that time. So including health insurance, cell phone, car, food, like everything. And we were just used to being like very frugal, just coming straight out of college.
But I think that 1-year plan didn't include stadium shows or anything like that. No. It was just sort of like, if this thing is sustainable enough for us to pay rent through music, like pay for our car, like that.
And if your monthly expenses are $1,000, I mean, that's a couple gigs, few gigs, So that's great. And that's a great aim and very achievable. That's actually a very strong, as we call them, like smart goal. If it's just like, all right, we're going to try to make $1,000 a month with music. It's doable. I think, totally. Right. Totally. Cool.
And
so, okay. Go
ahead.
No, you go.
Okay, I was just gonna say, first our gigs were literally just setting out a tip jar, like asking a coffee shop, "Can we play music here?" And they say, "Yes, you can set out a tip jar, but we're not gonna pay you." And that grew to, "Okay, we're gonna pay you $75 for a 3-hour set," and we were very excited about that because it was a step up from the tip jar.
Sure.
But even that first year, Dave got his degree in photojournalism in college, and he did his internship at a newspaper in Phoenix where we were living. And so sometimes somebody would call the newspaper and say like, "Hey, can I get a photographer to photograph this thing?" And they would say, "We don't do that, but here's Dave Heller's number. Like he can shoot it for you." And so there's just like a couple of side gigs with his photography that could supplement on those months when
things were tight,
quite making enough with our music.
But I mean, eventually we kind of like found our way into NACA, like National Association for Campus Activities.
The college market. Yeah. I did that. I wonder if we crossed paths at any time during that, because I was doing the college circuit like pretty heavy from 2008 to like 2015 or something like that.
Wow.
I don't know. Maybe we
were a little
played a few NACAs together. Okay. Right. But that's a very lucrative way to gig. I mean, in the college market, and if you can get in NACA, start showcasing there. I mean, you can book in a whole year from one showcase. So absolutely.
Right. Yeah. And so, I mean, it was one of those kind of dream scenarios for us where we were kind of like starving newlyweds and found our way into a showcase at one of those NACA events.
Cool.
And we booked something like, I don't know, 20 shows in one night or something like that. And so we spent the next the school year just basically sort of setting up gigs that were supported by these college events that we were playing.
And people might not know who never don't know the college market. I mean, these gigs for unknown artists, they pay pretty well, like $1,000 or so a gig, and then they fly you out. They cover all expenses. They put you up. They do, right. And so that, that could be your year right there, and you can fill it in with other things. And so, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the college has a budget to put on these different events,
right.
But the drawback is that the events are put on by college students who have no idea what they're doing.
So you're playing at 11 a.m. in a cafeteria with people hungover eating pizza. Like, what is happening behind me?
Totally.
There were many cafeterias played during lunchtime.
Yeah, and we have some friends who were playing one of those gigs once, and while they were in the middle of their gig, they were in a student union where there was a piano. And somebody sat down at the piano while our friend's gig was going on, and somebody started playing the piano over top of what was happening. I mean, it's like naturally the quality of show.
Right. But
what actually ended up happening, the NACA thing ended up leading us into meeting some guys from Nashville that ended up leading into us making a record in Nashville. And it ended up moving to Tennessee and started making recordings. And as time went by and people were trying to figure out, like, okay, how do we do this digital music thing? I remember Radiohead was giving away their In Rainbows album and doing
that's right for pay what you want. Yeah, name your price.
And so, like, by this time in JJ's career, I mean, we've got 20 years that we have to cover, so I'm trying to kind of like speed this narrative along a little bit. But it was like we found ourselves expecting our first baby, and we had made a record, and we were kind of anticipating, okay, things are going to change after this record comes out. But like this thing is mastered, and when you were making CDs, there was this kind of like lag time between mastering and getting the manufactured product, right? You had to like look at all the printed stuff and approve manufacturing and then wait for all that. So we decided to kind of like do the Radiohead thing, give away the master of this recording for like email addresses and try to build. At that time it was MySpace, right?
Right.
But it was like we had given away over 10,000 downloads of this record that we had made. And one of the people who downloaded that record ended up dancing on the show So You Think You Can Dance to one of JJ's songs. And and what ended up happening because of that was that some guy who worked at a radio station in Houston ended up hearing the song and ended up filling in for one of his DJs. He was like a station manager or something like that. But he stepped in for a DJ and was like, hey, I heard the song, and played it. And then people started calling into the radio station and kind of like telling their story about like how they were moved by this song by this unknown artist. And the station did the thing where like they played that soundbite from one of those phone calls, played the song again, and it just sort of started this sort of snowballing thing. And I mean, this was in this sort of like Christian radio market, but like they had some kind of like program directors network,
like online forum.
Yeah, forum. And so that guy, after having like a week of playing JJ's song, ends up going onto this forum and tells everybody like, hey, you should check out this song. And this was like the end of the summer. And by October, we had a song on the Billboard charts, and like JJ's music was being played all over the country.
Is Christian charts? Is that, or
that's
what was the chart?
Right? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It was like,
cool.
Contemporary Christian or something like that.
Sure. Yep.
But what that did is it just sort of like opened up all of this opportunity for JJ to start doing tours with other acts and jumping on a bus. And eventually we bought a tour bus. And then by that time we had kids and we were trying to figure out how to.
And you were still independent?
That's right. Yeah.
So this is all, Yeah.
And what was wild was that the song was charting, and then we hired a radio promoter because it was so backwards. It was the kind of music that we were writing then and still write. It's just like more singer-songwriter. It's like you wouldn't, even at that time, you wouldn't hear that song and think like, oh, you should pitch that to radio because that would be a
Sure.
huge Christian music hit. It just does not fit the bill. But the way that it happened so organically and there was just a good story around it, I think that it really propelled it. And the people who like attached themselves to it, it was just really, it was meaningful to them on a deep level. So the people who like the song really, really, really liked the song.
Was
And
this Love
so-
Me, or which song are we talking about here?
It's a song called Your Hands.
It's called Your Hands. Yeah.
Your Hands. Okay.
But what that kind of like acoustic song that was not supposed to be a radio single and landed on the radio kind of opened up JJ to this market that we hadn't had exposure to before. It ended up opening up an opportunity to have like a subsequent song do well on the Christian radio as well.
Which was that Love Me song. That was the second single
Gotcha.
that did well.
Yeah.
Well, so
go ahead.
well, just to kind of like round out that narrative, it allowed us to be able to tour for a significant amount of time, and it was a priority for JJ to remain independent because by that time we had kids, and she didn't necessarily want to push her career to such a degree that it ended up really being a drawback as far as parenting is concerned. It's just like life on the road and parenting and trying to juggle that.
It's hard.
Were you bringing the kids on the bus on the road?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Our second daughter, I think she was, how old was she on her first tour?
Like 10 weeks.
Yeah, 10 weeks old.
Oh my
on her
gosh.
first tour.
Did you have support? I mean, that's got to be like a line item. It's like we got tour manager, we got the drummer, we got the guitarist, we got the front of house merch manager, nanny.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Nanny's got to. Okay, so that makes sense,
we
right?
had a nanny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's just
/ merch manager, right? Because we all wear multiple hats, right?
That's right. Right. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, so it was the kind of thing where I feel like being independent, and like from JJ's perspective, she didn't necessarily want this to blow up huge. She wanted it to be big enough to be sustainable,
Sure.
but not necessarily so big that like she was being interrupted in the grocery store every time she went, being recognized and that kind of thing. And I feel like for me as a manager, that was kind of agonizing because I wanted to make it grow as much as possible.
Sure.
But it was just one of those calculations that we ended up making. But I think that because we remained independent financially, things could be far more sustainable because we were operating. I mean, we were operating well, but still at a smaller scale relative to how big a band's music career could potentially grow.
Totally. So I want to kind of jump a timeline and fast forward a little bit because now that we're in the streaming era and you've really carved out a niche in this like children's music market now. Right. And it's, I guess, there's definitely a Venn diagram of Christian music and children's music and all of that. And so, but coming into the streaming era, you were sustaining touring early on. You were selling a bunch of, I'm assuming, physical records. I think I read somewhere you sold over 200,000 physical records, which is mind-blowing. But I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of that came prior to the streaming era. Maybe not. But
That's right.
Talk to me how, like, when streaming arrives and, you translate that, and
Right.
was there a shift in the business model as like, okay, we've been sustaining physical sales, doing really well. Maybe we had radio, maybe that's dropped off or something like that. But then how did you transition to where you're at now, where you're at 11 million monthly streams and, almost 1 billion total streams? Like, talk to me like that shift, because a lot of artists were not able to make that shift. From physical to streaming or even download streaming, especially as independent DIY artists.
Right. I will say it was very painful. We fought against it for a long time. I mean, because we saw how lucrative it was to sell physical CDs, especially because everything was in-house for us. And so like we paid for the manufacturing. We didn't have to pay a label to buy those CDs back from them. And so if we sell a CD for $10 even at a show, we're making $9. Like it
Right.
only costs $1
Well,
to manufacture.
sometimes less.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like
Yeah.
depending on the quantity. But I mean, that was the
Sure.
thing, is that we had a physical distributor for a while, and they were storing all of this physical product. But as radio play dropped off, it was like, even when we had success, it was sort of like, it wasn't necessarily intentional. We kind of had stumbled into this like radio thing, but we weren't necessarily very accustomed to targeting what Christian radio wanted to play.
Sure.
And even at that time, JJ's music was like kind of genreless. It was much more, I would describe it, in the singer-songwriter realm of things. But as radio fell away, one of the things that we decided to do was take a step back and make a lullaby project, because our kids were small. We had already been writing all of this this love song material for our children. We would play songs that we had written for our kids live, and ended up getting all of these like great responses from fans. And the fans started asking us, like, when are you going to put all of that onto an album? And I mean, it's like, when you're young, you want your music to be impressive. You want to entertain people. I mean, it's like, I was such a fan of like U2 and Coldplay and like these bands that were highly entertaining. And so the idea of making a lullaby album, which is like literally intended to put people to sleep, right?
It's not very rock and roll.
Right.
It's just it kind of goes against your ambition.
Sure.
But we had made this lullaby project, and as streaming started to grow and physical downloads or digital downloads were starting to drop, we were starting to take a look at the analytics and could see the streaming growth of this lullaby project. And so we had already had the experience of having made a Christmas record that had like orchestral production on it. And we loved the process of making something that was like already kind of like timeless and classic, and had this kind of evergreen quality to it. And so, but the drawback of making a Christmas record that sounds like that is that you can only play Christmas songs like 1 month a year. And so our idea was like, what if we could make a lullaby record that sounds like a Christmas record, that's essentially a Christmas record that people can play all year long. And so we did a Kickstarter for that record. We raised like $80,000 to make it. And that ended up being the second lullaby project that we made. We called it I Dream of You Volume 2. And we had, big string section, children's choir, like all of this production. And then one of the things with Christmas albums that we ended up realizing is like, people just love these Christmas songs. They're already their favorite songs in the world. They have this like sort of pre-mapped out emotional sort of draw. Like everyone loves hearing Nat King Cole's like Christmas song, right?
Sure.
But when an artist goes to make their version of it, their job is just to not mess it up. And so what we decided to do for I Dream of You Volume 2 is we made covers of like Bridge Over Troubled Water and Edelweiss and
Here Comes the Sun.
Yeah, like just these classic sort of like romantic songs that you could still sing to your kid. And so we did the Kickstarter, we released that record, had a great time doing it. But what ended up happening is the lullabies began to stream very well. And we also wanted to stop making more physical product and wanted to kind of move into that like digital world where we could just begin releasing without having to manufacture anything. And so our idea was to essentially move into a monthly model where sometimes we would work on these lullaby projects, but we just continued to write original material too. And so the strategy was essentially release an original song every month of the year. This is like back in 2017, 2018. And then like keep this lullaby thing going as well. And that's something that we've just carried on since basically 2017. And so our approach is way less the sort of like album release, like big launch, base an entire tour off of it. And it's more like a podcast model or something where we just sort of like feed the audience a month at a time with new material.
Right. I mean, it's back in 2017, nobody really understood necessarily how streaming worked or what like was the recommended release strategy. I mean, now in retrospect, and finally, you know, like the Spotify CEO like years ago said, like, you should be releasing music regularly. That's how our algorithm works. That's what we prefer. Got a lot of backlash for it because artists were like, don't tell me how to make my art. And it's like, it's not telling you how to make your art. It was basically saying, this is how our algorithm works, take it or leave it kind of a thing. Yeah. But you kind of got ahead of that without probably even understanding. So like, what was the intention at the time? Did you think, like, were you looking at the analytics as in like, okay, every time we release a new song or an album or something, we get a little spike? Or did you see, I mean, I don't even think there was Spotify for Artists at the time where you could study these analytics. I just like, what was the inspiration around like a song a month in addition to lullaby album? I mean, that's a lot of volume. Most artists can't put out that much volume.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was another kind of accidental thing in a way.
Okay.
It like a humanitarian organization asked us if we could make a version of the song This Little Light of Mine just for like their internal use for their employees, some campaign. And we're like, yeah, sure. And so we made that song and then we just decided to release it.
Well, what we said was like, what if we pay for the recording and we license it to you? At that same time, somebody else had asked us to make a single that they could potentially use. And so we had already made these two different recordings that were going to come out that weren't associated with a record. But it gave us the idea, like, what if we were to experiment and like we could work with a different producer on each single and kind of you know, in Nashville, there's just like a ton of collaborators that we could work with and sort of expand our network of people that we work with on recordings. And so especially that first year, it was just kind of throwing spaghetti on the wall, you know?
Yeah.
But it was also, it was really inspiring though, too, because it was the first time that we had ever written songs one at a time. I mean, because up until that point, it's like, okay, we have to create an album. It all has to be cohesive. Like, what's the story? And so this just allowed us to be totally creative and to, like Dave was saying, to work with different producers we'd never worked with before and just say like, hey, we want to make one song, you know, and not like an entire album. And even with songwriting collaborators too, it's like, hey, you want to write a song with us? And just kind of like testing out to see like, can we find people who work well with us? And so it was awesome. It was super fun. And I think we did, that's when we started Patreon.
That's true.
And we just we just told our people like, hey, we're doing this thing. If you want to be part of it, that'd be cool. Like, give like $1 or $5 or whatever every time we release a song.
Wow. Yeah.
And it was great. And how long did we do that? Like a year?
I kind of feel like it only took about a year for us to realize, like, hang on, the catalog is doing well enough that we don't necessarily need the Patreon support to underwrite the making of like whatever the next single happens to be.
Yeah, it was actually super fun because we just got to a point where I was like, okay, this has momentum. It's working. And to just like make a post that says like, hey, we did it, everybody. Like, you helped us launch this thing. Thanks for your support. And to just kind of, I guess we still have it, but we don't.
Well, we don't curate it in any way. We don't make new posts on Patreon.
But it kind of, the Patreon, it served its purpose and gave us the kickstart we needed. And
so Yeah, no, that's great, and that's so cool to just kind of see how you're navigating through all of this. So, and like organically, naturally, is just following these things, and it was just started to fall into place. Now, like bringing us to more or less present day. Um, as I take a look at everything that you have up, and it's just, you've like Spotify, sure, has like millions and millions of streams. It looks like almost 600,000 monthly listeners. YouTube still like over 100 million views on videos, and it's like these are siloed, And what is fascinating is just like we've seen artists that have a lot of success on Spotify because the algorithm on Spotify just starts to go, and or they get placed in a bunch of these playlists. Like I noticed, your second most popular or actually your most popular playlist on Spotify is not an official editorial. I can't see your back end Spotify for artists, so it's like I don't know, what the algorithm's doing for you, which I'm assuming is a lot. But like it's this toddler sleep playlist with only 4,000 saves. Just some random user created this playlist. You have a bunch of songs on there, but so do others. Like there's hundreds of songs on this playlist, and that's like the number one most popular playlist there. So it's like I'm curious, how like much of that was like accidental. I mean, obviously you have a lullaby series, and so parents can put that on for their kids. It's a sleep playlist, and that's like, you're gonna just like hit go, and then 12 hours later it's still going. And so sure, that's like helpful in the streaming era. You're gonna get paid for that. But then on YouTube, also fascinating to me because it's not just that the algorithm was doing these things on Spotify, and that you have videos that have millions of views. And so it's like, and then your Patreon. So I guess the question is, of your audience, if you've looked into this or studied or thought about this, how much of these are like real diehard passionate fans that are kind of like, I'm a JJ Heller fan, and then how much is it do you think it's like people that are searching lullaby music on Spotify and hit play, or like sleep music for my toddler play, and then it just like goes, and then or seeking out on YouTube, like I want to watch this music video or play this and all of that. And how is that now the business model broken down for you, and how much are you controlling that?
We have so little control.
I know.
I really think
scary.
Like, yeah. I mean it is. But at the same time, I also think it's the product of having a career that's 20 years long, right?
Okay.
And so, like, I'm sure there are people who are still listening to JJ's catalog who started listening, 15 years ago. And so there's a contingent that's still listening to older material and potentially discovering the new stuff that we release every single month. But I think the intention behind a lot of what we make is that there's just kind of a practical application associated with it. Like eventually, especially with the I Dream of You material, there are 10 albums now. And as we did volume 2 and volume 3 and volume 4, we were like, it's going to get irritating to the listener to try to figure out like which song is on which album. And we had already been kind of organizing them by theme. And so we just made the kind of executive decision to change the way that we named them according to the theme that they were made under. And so one is calm, and one is joy, and one is friendship. And then there's a hymns one, and there's a Christmas one, and there's a home one that we made last year. And the way that I like to talk about it is that it's almost like essential oils for your ears. Like there's this sort of like, if you need to relax, use the lavender, right? It's sort of like, when it comes to sleep, put on the sleep record. But like the Christmas season comes around, and like JJ's got 3 Christmas records now. And then even when it comes to the singles that we release, original material or covers material, like we're writing for very specific segments of our audience. And so one of the YouTube videos that we made ended up featuring documentary footage from a filmmaker where someone was having a home birth, and the song wasn't about home birth. It was about like appreciating like the little moments that you have in life, and so the video was like contrasting like this home birth with also like a mother who was dealing with cancer. So she has like no hair and she's hanging out with her family. And so it's like just contrasting these two moments in life. But like, because of social media, like the home birth clip ended up doing really well on Instagram Reels and stories and that kind of thing. And so that song ends up being associated with home birth video footage. And so when somebody makes a home birth video, they end up getting like a JJ Heller song and putting it on there. And it's like, that's happened with adoption videos, and it's happened with kids dealing with medical problems, and parents who, like funerals and weddings, and, we write for all of these sort of calendar moments and like mile markers of people's lives, so that there's like a very practical like nature to the material that we write. I mean, we come from Nashville, where there's this songwriting tradition of, really paying attention to the lyric as opposed to like pop music, but where it's just like, this is my jam.
Right.
And so it's like we write with some super talented writers in town who help us sort of fashion these songs to be especially impactful for all of these little segments of JJ's listening community. And so they turn to those songs when they need them.
That's a really fascinating point. And so are you thinking about these segments when you're creating these songs like the home birth? The song you said wasn't really about a home birth, but because you then made the visuals, people now will associate that. So where in that process are you thinking, all right, this is going to be for this segment of our audience? Is that in the songwriting process, or is that when you're going to make the music video, or does it happen by accident?
I mean, our perspective is that the thing that we actually have control over is whether we make the next thing, And I've been listening to, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name. The dude with Rick Rubin. I've been listening to Rick Rubin's book. And he's just talking about the creative process, and that like what an artist is responsible for is essentially creating whatever it is that they have to create today. And in that way, your music, your painting, what your pages of your novel or whatever, it's like a journal entry, right?
Yeah.
And our hope is that when we sit down and we make our journal entry for today, it will be meaningful for somebody. And we will sometimes go, it would be fun to have a song for people's birthdays. What if we wrote a happy birthday song? And so it's like there's something practical about that, but we have no idea if the birthday song is going to be the big hit or not.
Right.
And so our dedication is way more to the creation of meaningful material, and then we allow the song to do what it does after the fact. And we don't necessarily kind of shepherd it along the way or have like a huge PR approach that's like, no, we're going to make sure that this is the hit. Like we just kind of allow the catalog to do the thing.
Well, sure, and that makes sense. I'm curious because when you write a song that might be a bit more universal, not like about a specific life moment or someone with cancer or whatever, but then the conscious decision is, let's make visuals that tell this story over here, and then that association happens. When does that come into play? And do you team up with directors and music video creators to kind of conceive of these concepts, or are you going in with this concept and helping somebody realize that vision for you? Is it always long form? Is it always let's make a music video that tells a story? Or how what clips do, and why spend all the money to make a 4-minute, high production music video when the clip is what's driving the traffic and the streams?
Yeah, I think especially over the past 5 years or so, we've realized that music videos just don't have the same impact that they once did. Like it's a
Sure.
big ask to have somebody sit down and like watch something for 3.5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, we only will make a full length music video if it's a passion project, because we know we're
Okay.
not going to recoup on it. I mean, there's
Right.
always the chance of like something going viral, but it's a small chance. And so for us, it's just like, do we have a vision for this?
Mm-hmm.
And do we think that this would be meaningful to somebody? And do we want to spend our money on it? Because we know that we're
Mm-hmm.
most likely not going to recoup any of that back.
I think though,
Sure.
in terms of the way that the content was created, like we developed a relationship with a woman who was like kind of making documentary style videos, and she kind of had her own kind of catalog of footage that she had already shot that she owned.
Okay.
And then we
Mm-hmm.
licensed material from her kind of based on whether something that she had made would fit with the music that we had created. And so it was
Mm-hmm.
this sort of like symbiotic relationship where where we would license from her, and then I enjoy video editing, and so I would take that footage and then cut it together in order to sort of create a story that could work with
Yeah.
a song that we had written. And so, I mean, uh, I think the most nervous that I ever get is when we're actually generating our own video content for something. Like it's kind of nerve-wracking to me to like, hire the filmmaker and potentially have actors and somebody in makeup, and like you're worrying about costumes and
Oh
locations and
yeah.
all of that stuff. Like it's like what we like
It's
doing is
expensive.
making exactly. And you don't know if the actor's going to deliver it. Like, is
Yeah.
this actually going to work in the long run? It's like, we're musicians, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so I mean, we want everything that we make to be as excellent as possible, but we
Sure.
also want to create it within like a reasonable budget, knowing that there's a really good chance that we might not
Of
see any
course.
revenue.
Right. Right. So let's talk. I mean, just social media strategy for a second, because your song "Big Love Small Moments" went viral on Instagram. The sound, not just like one video, which I think is this new concept that we've seen now on TikTok for 5 years. This is very common where a sound goes viral and a bunch of people create videos. And only over the last year or two has this really started to happen on Instagram. But there's 111,000 reels that have used the song, the sound, the official sound, "Big Love Small Moments."
Mm-hmm.
Tell me how that happened.
We
Who
don't
knows?
know.
That's the
Come
thing. I
on, that's
know.
so unsatisfying.
I know.
It is.
It's so yeah. This is the like rip your hair out part
Right.
of like trying to be a musician. But it's like it's a blessing and a curse, because
Okay.
it's like you never know what amazing thing might happen at any moment, because
Yeah.
we made the music video, we put it online, and then it just kind of took on a life of its own. We actually did an experiment a month ago where we like hired a social media marketing company to pitch a song of ours to different influencers, and had this whole
Yeah.
campaign thinking like, oh, this would be an amazing sound for our demographic. Like most of my listeners are moms, and
Mm-hmm.
there's like a huge mom presence on social media. And
Yeah.
so we're like, wouldn't it be awesome if we can just say, here's this great song for all of your reels? And like,
Right.
Well, I mean, what it did is it generated like 2.5 million views.
That's true.
Right. Among
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
maybe
Was
like,
it for this song or was it a
No.
different song?
No, it was like a new song called "Little" that we released. I
Right.
mean, every time Mother's Day comes around, we tend to use the calendar year as something that we can kind of like leapfrog off of, associated with momentum. So I mean, it's like
Yeah.
if you've got a New Year's Day song, you don't want to release that around the 4th of July, right? I mean, it's like you
Right.
want
Right.
it to kind of fit with what's going on in the zeitgeist. And so my assumption with "Big Love Small Moments," which is actually the one about, that's the song that had the home birth video footage. my assumption is that somewhere around Mother's Day this year or last year, somebody ended up using it. And I mean, sometimes they use it with their pets, and sometimes it's about their kids, or maybe it's their house. So, I mean, it's like we just don't even know. And it's actually hard to delve into the analytics using the tools that we have at our disposal. But even if we could figure it out, I also don't think it's actually that easy to reverse engineer it. Like, and so, yeah, I mean, it was like 2 years ago or last year, we have an amazing version of Edelweiss that's on the I Dream of You album, but we also released an instrumental version where we we thought maybe an instrumental version of that Lullaby album would be great. For people to play instead of having JJ's voice for a lullaby record. And then we were like, that's a horrible idea. Like this brand is based on JJ's voice. But by that time, that instrumental record was already out. The instrumental version of Edelweiss went viral on Instagram as well. And we have no idea why. But I mean, it was like, it's been shared hundreds of thousands of times on Instagram as well. And, generated all of these views. I think the thing is... like kind of the way that Apple perceived like the iPhone potentially cannibalizing the iPod. Like they didn't necessarily see the iPod team in direct competition with the iPhone team. They were just teams at Apple. And like what each team did is they contributed to the bottom line of the company. At least that's the way it was run when Steve Jobs operated the company. And I feel like that's very much our view when we approach social media, when we approach DSPs, when we approach YouTube. It's just like everything is contributing to like the big pond that is the JJ Heller catalog. And we use that pond to generate whatever we feel inspired to make this month,
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. So I want to shift a little bit because, as this digital era now that you've kind of thrived in over the last 8 years or so, that it's really been moving for you. You had this era prior to that where you were selling a lot of physical product, and you had like, maybe you're touring and you're playing shows in front of fans and an audience that was like, you saw how that business model worked. Hand to hand, direct, let me pay you money and I'm going to get this product. And that like makes a lot of sense. Then we transitioned into this era which is a lot more nebulous. You said we don't know how this has happened. This has just happened here. We don't really have much control. It's just, oh my God, So it's like it's great. But now that we've settled in a little bit and streaming, it's 15 years now we've had streaming in the world, but it's like, really solidly been part of the zeitgeist now for a solid 10 in the States and everything. And now social media is settling into what we're understanding is like interest media platforms, not really social as much anymore. It's interest based and trending songs, and all of this to say as the backdrop of, are you focusing anymore on direct to fan? I see you have a shop and you have like a jewelry line and stuff like that, or you sell, certain things. And of the pie chart, I guess, of like the JJ Heller business and the revenue and everything, like how does that break down in terms of like what is coming direct to fan, in terms of what they're paying you directly? Like you said, Patreon, that's a great example, but I know that you haven't used Patreon for many years. So it's like, or is there no more direct to fan and it's all praying to the gods of Spotify and the algorithm, honestly? And it's just like, let's just hope this algorithm holds true for us, because, and that nobody flips a switch and the algorithm changes and then your business just crumbles.
Well, I think the thing is that like when I look at the analytics, the way that the algorithm ends up helping is there is like 50%. 50% is algorithm driven. And then the other 50% is fan driven. And we can't control the algorithm, but we can still communicate with the fans, right? And so we know very specifically that JJ's audience is like heavily female weighted. We know that the largest portion of her listenership is between the age 25 and 45. And it's like, that's moms, right? And so we write for when children are born. We write for when they graduate. We write for when they leave the house. You know, like we are providing words for this demographic that are that's paired with music that is going back to that utilitarian thing. It's like our job is to think about what those people are feeling and to articulate those feelings, because they don't have the time to articulate them because they're driving a minivan all the time, right?
Right.
And so like you know, a lot of JJ's listeners will write and say it, like if they were driving, they will say like, I started listening to this song and I had to pull the car over because I was crying and I couldn't operate my car anymore. And it's like, that's a huge compliment to us that like her music is connecting with them on such a deep level. And I feel like when somebody has felt that kind of a connection with an artist, they will stick with them and support them like through what they make next. And so, I mean, when it comes to the physical product that we sell from JJ's store, the necklaces that have lyrics on them, or if we make apparel or whatever, the hope is still that it's not based around JJ Heller, the person. It's around the content that JJ Heller makes for the audience member. And I feel like that's actually a pretty unique perspective associated with JJ's career, is that like, yes, she is the artist, but I feel like her audience feels more of a connection with the art that she makes rather than with her as an artist.
So that's that brings me to a controversial topic, and that's a nice segue. And we can't have an interview in July 2025 without discussing AI. So when you say that they're resonating more with the content that she's making, the songs, the art, than the person, I'm we've all seen these like AI bands, this AI music. Just a couple weeks ago or last week, I saw this couple, a young couple. They're parent influencers on Instagram, and they've now created a band, and it's a fake AI band. They don't say this is a fake AI band, but they use these songs to soundtrack all of their videos. And then everyone's like, oh my gosh, this song is amazing. They're like, thanks, I created it. I made it. And like, oh, they're actually taking ownership over, I made this song, because they typed in a couple prompts into Suno and ChatGPT and created the lyrics. And it's a fully AI generated song. And then they have a whole Spotify profile and they're getting millions of streams. And so because people are resonating with the songs, and even they don't even, at this point, the algorithm's now taken off, and now these songs are being inserted into algorithmic playlists and all of that, which brings me to the point of like, are people like, because if they don't resonate with the artist and it's just the music on the playlist or in the algorithm, or to soundtrack their life or to soundtrack these moments, how do you approach what's happening in our world with, at least in our music industry, or at least in just like how songwriting and artistry and fandom and listenership now is this, and how are we going to move into this next era? And is this something that you guys have thought about at all or noticed happening?
Do you have any thoughts about this, Jay?
I mean, there's so much in there. I mean, I saw a quote recently that was just talking about how music is all about the artist's perspective on the world, and AI doesn't have a perspective. It's just a conglomeration of all that exists. And so, but for me as an artist, it's easy for me to see the dangers of AI. But I don't know, as like thinking as a consumer, just feels easy to just use that. I don't know. Do you have thoughts on this, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, I actually, I think about this story that I heard on This American Life a couple of years ago. It was about this girl who, I can't remember if she lived in like Philadelphia or something like that, but the reporter met her in Brooklyn. I guess her family was traveling to Brooklyn. And this girl was like very industrious. She was probably 8 years old or something like that. And she walked into a drugstore and she bought a handful of blow pops, and she stepped out onto the sidewalk and she just started approaching strangers and saying, I am trying to raise money for my future college education, and I'm wondering if you would like to buy a blow pop to help support me going to college, And people started handing her $5 bills when a blow pop costs whatever, 25 cents. And this girl was charming and self-motivated, and the thing was that people weren't paying the girl for the blow pop. They were paying the girl because they believed in the girl. Sure. And I feel like even though like people who listen to JJ's music may not necessarily worship her the way that Taylor Swift's fans worship her, they still know that who JJ Heller is, and they know that she has lived the life of a mother and has experienced all of these things that she's been writing about. And I feel like I can't control the music that other people choose to consume, but what we can do is write, kind of like what JJ was saying, write from our experience and hope that our personal experience deeply connects with the people that we're trying to serve. And the hope for me is that is enough, I mean, it's very possible that AI music will take a chunk out of, huge segments of the music industry. But I also feel like music is about more than just vibes. It's also communication. And it's like, I know I'm talking to you on a screen, but I also know there's a human being on the other side of this screen. And
not for long.
Surprise!
Right.
But he's a robot.
What a twist.
Right.
No, but I mean, it's like, I don't think I would give an hour of my time to talk about the music industry to AI. I know there might be some people who do, but it's like, I feel like this conversation that we're having is for your benefit and also for the benefit of all the listeners that you are serving, human beings, right?
Right.
And so I still believe that our stories are meaningful, and therefore telling our stories is meaningful.
Yeah, no, that I resonate with that, and I like to believe that that there are that people do want to find the humanity in music, and that they will continue to seek out human-made music with a soul. But I also understand that a similar audience that might just pop on a playlist, a functional music playlist while they work or while they sleep or while they, cook or whatever, that's just kind of background noise. They don't really care who's on it as long as it serves its function,
Right.
which is kind of like the sleep playlist that your most popular playlist, which it just comes back around to. It's like, these are lullabies, and sure, you have a bunch of songs in there, but would anyone notice or care if they put a bunch of AI generated lullaby songs on there? AI has gotten so good, it's almost unrecognizable that it's AI these days.
I mean, that is very true. At the same time, I do feel like yes. So I think what you're describing is like there is a function of listening to music that is sort of passive, right?
Right. Yes.
And like that has a different value than turning to music to describe an experience. And it's like parents listen to JJ's music in neonatal intensive care units, and they listen to it because it brings them comfort, and that's a different thing than just turning on the Lullaby Vibes playlist that's generated by a computer. And like, we went to dinner last night, and there were a bunch of people around a bar having a trivia night. And it's like, what is the point of trivia? We have the internet. The internet can answer any question, right? But it's like people want to get together and answer questions and see how smart they are with each other. They want to have a little competition. And so it's like, on the one hand, like the current model that we have for the music industry involves streaming and involves playlists and involves algorithms. But I think in my neighborhood, because I live outside of Nashville, Gabe Dixon came by and played an amazing set. And all these people came out and they sat in their lawn chairs and they listened to Gabe Dixon play an amazing set. And it's like, you can't replace that with AI. Like, nobody's going to put a laptop up there and be like, that was an amazing night. Yeah. And so yes, I do feel like AI has the potential to disrupt industry. And so it may disrupt the music industry, but I still feel like there is value in human beings creating music to be shared with other human beings. It just might not look the way that it does right now. But I mean, it's like when we started, the Apple Music Store didn't even exist. So I mean, it's like we've seen it move from in my lifetime, tapes to CDs to digital downloads to streaming, and like there might be something else in the future. But I feel like our job as artists, going back to just the idea of JJ and me releasing music on a monthly basis, like we feel like our job as artists is to make art. And so we are committed to doing that.
Because there's so much other stuff that we have absolutely no control over, but we know that we have a perspective, and we experience success when we hear stories from people that our music is connecting with them and encouraging them. So that's what we keep trying to do. Just keep creating music that moves people.
Yeah, I mean, like you listed all of the numbers associated with JJ's career, and I feel like that is very gratifying, and it's also kind of comforting to know that we've been working for a really long time, and there's been an audience that is such and such quantifiable size that can be also quantified in so many dollars or whatever that is. But like the actual gratification comes in the making of the thing, and then hearing the response from the people that we made it for, who are telling us this was meaningful to me. And I feel like I would do that for free. It's like, that's why we make music. So it's nice. It's nice that it comes with a paycheck. But I think like philosophically, like what we all actually want is connection. And so that's what we're shooting for.
Beautiful. And that's a perfect segue to my final question, which you might have just answered, to be honest, which is, what does it mean to you to make it in the new music business?
Yeah, we've kind of had to redefine that a few times along the way. Like we mentioned before, kind of when we were starting out, it was like, how can I be impressive? And then it was like, oh no, how do I connect with people? And so I think now success to us is make enough to pay for our lives, make enough so that it's sustainable. And then if we're hearing like on a consistent basis from people that our songs matter to them, then we're doing the thing. And I think it's nice to be married because we can kind of keep each other in check. Like if we're getting too discouraged about music, or if we're getting too big of a head, we can kind of remind ourselves. But yeah, I think we, especially living in Nashville with so many talented people living here, like you literally go to the airport and there are people singing there who like should have record deals.
Probably do have publishing deals, to be honest. Let's be real here. I know some of them, and they do.
We just have to keep pinching ourselves that like, I don't know why we get to do this, like why we've had so much success, but we're just so grateful, and so we just want to keep making beautiful things.
I would kind of add to that one of the other kind of great joys of being able to have a career where we make the kind of music that we make. I mean, it's like making music, orchestral music, is that, we have all these streams and it provides us with a lot of resources, but we get to pour back into the music, the music creators, the incredibly talented people who help us make these recordings. And so it's like, as a result, we have these collaborators who are like top shelf, just incredible string players and drummers and electric guitarists and producers that we get to work with, who, as our career rises, we get to support them as well. And I feel like it brings me a lot of joy to, this is a little bit of an aside, and I don't mean it to be self-aggrandizing, but I feel like the way that streaming DSPs compensate public songwriters is not right, okay? And we have some very successful
co-writes.
Co-written songs where our master recording has brought in a lot of cash to us that hasn't necessarily compensated our co-writers. And and it brings me a lot of joy at the end of the year to write them a little bonus check. Just be like, this song wouldn't exist if it wasn't for you, and I want you to have this because you're not being compensated fairly. And I feel like, when Taylor Swift a couple tours ago was going around the country, she in each new city, she would bring up another artist to share the stage with her. And I feel like that's just sort of like, that's Nashville, right? It's just like, hey, like there's room on the stage for you. And I feel like instead of viewing it as zero sum, it's like, we're all doing this, guys. Like, let's help each other out. And it's like, if you play your best on our record, it only makes our record sound better, And so we just try to make sure that everybody wins.
Love it. Dave and JJ Heller, thank you so much. That was great.
Hey, thanks, man.
This episode was edited by Peter Schrupp with music by Brassroots District and produced by all the great people at Ari's Take.